My strength, my soul.
Hello, this is Anil Kumar from Back to the Bible radio broadcast. On today's program, we continue our series with Dr. Neufeld entitled Skillful Living. Studying the subject of wisdom, focusing on Proverbs chapter 3, verses 1 to 12. Let us read Proverbs chapter 3, verses 1 to 12. My son, do not forget my teaching, but let your heart keep my commandments, for length of the days and years of life, and peace they will add to you. Do not let kindness and truth leave you. Bind them around your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart, so you will find favor and good repute in the sight of God and man. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your paths straight. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and turn away from evil. It will be healing to your body and refreshment to your bones. Honor the Lord from your wealth and from the first of all your produce. So your barns will be filled with plenty, and your vats will overflow with new wine. My son, do not reject the discipline of the Lord, or loathe His reproof. For whom the Lord loves, He reproves, even as a father corrects the son in whom He delights. We will examine the theme of counting on God. So let's go back to the Bible with Dr. John Neufeld.
Success means we find favor with God and man. We find that we're at peace with God and man. Our relationships are whole, not broken. If you act lovingly, all your relationships will prosper. When? In due season. Now the third command in the promise, verses 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him. Now listen to the promise, and He will make your paths straight. Good success. It takes all the principles that we've learned and makes them practical. You know, this next passage that we're about to read is not the only way. There are many that test whether we're crawling forward cautiously. Switches had vanished into thin air, and the desks had made a comeback. Our new teacher stood at the front of the class, and he didn't smile. His demeanor shocked the whole class, and his body language and the way he handled himself told us all that this was not a man to be trifled with. He informed us that first day that we had wasted half a year, and that we were going to learn a full year's English requirements in the next half year, and anyone unwilling to accept his rules would be thrown out of the school. Then he told us to open our books and begin to write, and we did. And before that year ended, I came to love Mr. L. Berry. I found out that his stern, demanding, disciplinarian face had a loving heart, and I flourished and I grew under his tutelage. See, God is not unloving, but He deliberately introduces hardship into our lives in order to correct us, so that all other things He promises us will in the end come true in the light of eternity. God will not have unwise children. And here is the vast frozen lake of God's promises. We can count on Him. Wisdom may take time, and wisdom will demand that we develop a palate for it. But undergirding all the commands of wisdom are the promises of God which cannot fail. Years, health, success, straight paths, refreshment for our tired bones, and a barn full of produce, and a Father who delights in His children.
want to discover what the pursuit of wisdom means in every part of our lives, then this passage in Proverbs 3 is a great start. Getting wisdom doesn't necessarily promise us health and wealth, but God does promise that we will lead long and fulfilling lives in good times and even in the bad. In fact, as Dr. Neufeld has pointed out, we must see the Proverbs as God's commands and His promises to guide us throughout every stage of life. Back to the Bible, leading people into a dynamic relationship with God. To present our Bible calendar now available as a free gift to our listeners. The Bible reading calendar has historically been a wonderful resource for spiritual encouragement, but the calendar's primary goal is to guide you through the reading of the Bible in 1 year using Dr. Neufeld's unique Bible reading plan. So ask for your free copy today by calling 9492440070. That is 9492440070, or send a request by email at info@backtothebible.in. Thank you for tuning to Reach Beyond Australia. Join us again tomorrow evening at 1200 UTC or 5:30 p.m. India Standard Time on this same frequency of 11825 kHz in the 25 meter band.
तपाईलाई मुक्तिको आवाज रेडियो कार्यक्रमको अर्को भागमा स्वागत छ।
Reach beyond to us.
1990 में परमेश्वर ने आपके और मेरे लिए एक खजाना रखा है। इजराइल के सबसे महान नेताओं में से एक मूसा की ओर से स्वयं परमेश्वर के लिए एक कोमल प्रार्थना। मैं हूं क्रिस्टोफर सिंह और आज के ताजा कार्यक्रम में एक बार फिर आपका स्वागत है। और अगर इस प्रार्थना का एक केंद्रीय विषय है तो वो होगा मूसा परमेश्वर के साथ एक सही
Listening to Reach Beyond Australia, but we also like to hear from you. If you have a comment on our program, want to give us a signal report, or simply ask a question, we would love to hear from you. Our email address is radio@reachbeyond.org.au. The word radio, the @ followed by the words reachbeyond.org.au. Reach Beyond Australia. Life-changing radio.
What a treasure that God's preserved here for you and me in Psalm 90. A tender, warm prayer from one of Israel's greatest leaders, Moses, to God himself. Hi, I'm Bernie Diamond, and it's fresh. And if there's one central theme to this prayer, even though it does meander around just a bit, it would have to be this. Moses yearns for a right relationship with God and the benefits that flow from that. He talks about the anger of God at our sin, the fact that Israel has strayed from him, the importance of the fear of God, the fact that life is short and it can be a real grind. All the real-life things that you and I contend with as well. But at the heart of this beautiful prayer is a desire to be in right relationship with God and see the benefits of that relationship flow into the life of Israel. Here's how Moses finishes his prayer, Psalm 90, verses 16 and 17. Let your servants see the wonderful things you can do for them, and let their children see your glory. Lord our God, be kind to us. Make everything we do successful. Yeah, make it all successful. Wow, look at that prayer. A prayer for blessing and success. Great, but, and here's the key, flowing out of a right relationship with God, flowing out of the fear of God, flowing out of an experience of his love. And yet how often do we mistakenly pray for happiness, blessing and success in the absence of a fear for God? How easy is it to expect his blessing and success while we continue in sinful rebellion? Let's get a revelation here today. The wonderful blessings of God to his children flow out of a right relationship with him. So honor God. That's his word. Fresh for you today. And a right relationship with him flows out of letting his words soften, penetrate, fill our hearts with his wisdom and his love. That's why I'd love to send you your fresh devotional every day. It's completely free. Just stop by at freshdevotional.org, and when you do subscribe, you'll immediately receive a copy of my ebook, How Can I Hear God Speak to Me? That web address again is freshdevotional.org.
Have you noticed that children will occasionally disobey their parents for the express purpose of testing just how much they can get away with? This boundary pushing can be played with surprising skill, even by very young children. I'm Brett Ryan for Focus on the Family Australia. I was on a train a few years ago, and a little girl was jumping up and down on the seat. The mother kept on saying, "Sit down, I'll smack you." Well, the child kept on jumping up and down without any follow-up from the mother. It was like she was saying, "What's she going to do about it, Mum?" A couple of keys to address this type of challenge. Boundaries should not move. If you keep giving in, they'll keep trying to break them. Mean what you say and say what you mean. Follow through on the consequences. If they don't follow the rules, they need to face the consequences. And praise positive behaviour. Kids thrive and will tend to repeat something when they know they are doing something right, rather than constantly correcting poor behaviour. For more parenting advice, go to families.org.au.
I guess we're all at the point of adjusting to a new normal, a normal of social isolation, a normal where many people are withdrawing into their own shells amidst this COVID-19 pandemic. Hi, I'm Bernie Diamond from ChristianityWorks.com. Yeah, people are doing it tough from a health and safety perspective and financially as well. Life as usual has been profoundly disrupted, and it's not very pleasant wherever you live, whatever your circumstances. And yet in Christ we have hope. Now, you and I might say, I hope it doesn't rain tomorrow. But that has absolutely no impact whatsoever on whether indeed it'll rain tomorrow or not. But when God uses that word hope in the Bible, he means certain hope, a rock-solid, done-deal kind of hope. Writing to a bunch of Christians who at the time were suffering horrendous trials, Peter says this, 1 Peter chapter 3, verses 15 and 16. Always be ready to make your defense to anyone who demands from you an accounting for the hope that's in you, yet do it with gentleness and reverence. As you and I draw close to Jesus during these difficult times, he blesses us with a certain hope in him, with a peace, with a joy in the face of adversity that to many of those around us simply doesn't make sense. It's time to let that hope shine out of you. Let others see it.
And when they ask you why you have this warm and peaceful countenance about you, tell them about Jesus.
Light and life.
Hello, it's Chris for the Salvos. Author and veterinary physician Elisa Metis wrote recently, "When I lost my 20-year-old son to a self-inflicted gunshot wound, I plunged into a vacuum devoid of any belief system that would answer what would be the most important question of my life. Where is my son? Where did he go to?" So she started researching the afterlife. I think it's fair to say that the afterlife is on most, if not all, people's minds when it comes down to their last breath. So our guests this week are Dr. Barnett, leading New Testament scholar, and Michael Turner, the senior curator of the Nicholson Museum at the University of New South Wales. First up, Michael shared some interesting insights into what the ancient Egyptians and Greeks believed about the afterlife and their burial customs.
Well, I mean, the whole concept of placing objects in a tomb, I mean, the Egyptian example is quite specifically for use in the afterlife. I mean, in the Egyptian example, they even had little figures buried with them, little figures called shabtis. And these quite specifically were people who would work for you in the afterlife. So you were taking your servants or slaves along with you.
Did they think those figures came to life, or how did that?
Well, exactly. In exactly the same.
If we're interested in the afterlife, it's by Eddie, and it's called The Jesus Legend. Thanks for joining us on Light and Life. Next week, a guy who tried so hard to be perfect that he gave up altogether, gave up his faith, moved to Cambridge in the UK to become a professional cricketer. And the experience he had about trying to be perfect. Next week on Light and Life. Hope you can join us.
This is Light and Life. To contact us, go to salvos.org.au/radio. Sweet. Cool down, but don't you know it's the brother told them all you were choking me. The monkey yeah, said your story's so touching and it sounds like life. Straight up and straight back.
Tuning to Reach Beyond Australia. We invite you to tune again tomorrow evening at 13:30 UTC or 7 p.m. India Standard Time on this same frequency of 11,945 kHz in the 25-meter band.